E360 TV proudly presents Messages of Inspirational Stories TV show. Live streaming now to millions of devices around the world on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook live streaming. Our shows are available video on demand on these channels. And we broadcast daily, Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on these channels. On Mondays, Expanding Your Business. Tuesdays, Natural Health and Wellness. On Wednesdays, we cover Mentoring Our Youth. And on Thursdays, our new show, Ideas Worth Knowing. And on Fridays, Women in Leadership. To be able to watch our television show on your favorite device, please go to e360tv.com and download the app for your favorite device. Brought to you by our producers and hosts, Jim Grant and Donna Guinois. Along with our host, Beata Severin Reed and Emerson Brantley. Supported by our admin team of Michaela Vidal and Gaia Guinois Balconi Leda. And welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. The messages. How you doing, Emerson?
Hey, Jim.
Yeah. The Messages of Inspirational Stories is proudly brought to you by the good guys at the 6minutewebinar.com. And our show today, Mentoring Our Youth, we're going to be talking about that, sharing some unique things with you. But please visit our sponsor, the 6minutewebinar.com, and our sponsor for tomorrow's show, Ideas Worth Knowing. And Emerson said he might share an idea worth knowing or two today, so you may want to stay tuned in. But please visit, as you see there on the marquee, ideasworthknowing.com, because you can go there, you can register for your complimentary library card. You can get up to 10 of the wonderful books he has there. And Mike is working on that site. He's updating it, and he is getting more and more books there. And, you know, we just encourage you to check it out and get some great information there, because that's a great place also to start. When you're talking about mentoring youth, you know, you may want to start mentoring yourself first and, you know, learning, you know, being able to share your story about how you overcame obstacles, because that's the kind of stories that kids need to know. And need to understand that you weren't born just with, you know, a paved street in front of you, a silver spoon in your hand or whatever. They need to know that you struggle too. And that's very important, because it shows them that you were not bulletproof either. That's very important, isn't it, Emerson?
It is. Mm-hmm. It is. It's very easy to look at somebody who's already gone through the mill and who has already achieved things in their life, mm-hmm. and not have any real sense of what the process was that they had to go through. Mm-hmm. And this is for anybody. It's especially true for those of you who I'll say are who are women. Are those of you who are minorities and have accomplished something, or maybe you're looking at wanting to accomplish something, and there's no real sense of everything that somebody else went through to be at the place that you see them at up here. And we just have to appreciate the fact that there are going to be roadblocks and challenges and obstacles in our way. And we can so learn from the people who've gone before us. Mm-hmm. And I know, Jim, I can say this for myself. Jim, I know you can say it for yourself. There were people who went before us who took us under their arm, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I can think of more than one who said, now, son, let me tell you something. Let me show you something. Let me explain something to you. Our who are the ones who made that phone call, or who made that introduction at a networking meeting, or who opened the door for us along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I do everything that I can in my life, every chance that I can, to go back and thank those people when I'm able
Mm-hmm.
to. And I have to add this, Jim. There have been a couple that were some very challenging relationships for me. But
Yeah.
when I had the opportunity to go up and thank them,
Mm.
I thanked them anyway.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you bet. Yeah, as you were mentioning that, one of the things that came to my mind as far as being a mentor, I started out in the Army as E1 private like everybody else, nothing special. And then I got promoted to private E2, then PFC, E3, and then I went to E4 specialist. And then I got promoted to E5 sergeant. And it wasn't that big of a deal or anything like that. But when I started getting to staff sergeant, I was getting promoted to staff sergeant, and this sergeant took me aside. He says, "Let me share something with you." He says, "You are now starting to get into the upper ranks of an NCO, which is a non-commissioned officer." And he says, the upper ranks, I didn't consider E6 an upper rank, but what he was talking about is that I'm getting now into a leadership role because as the E5 buck sergeants, they called it, the little chevron stripes. Yeah, I was, had enough rank not to be a peon, but not enough rank to, to do anything really. But when you become a staff sergeant in a platoon, you're kind of like a squad leader. And he says, you've got to separate yourself a little bit because people that are your subordinates are looking for a leader, but don't ever forget how the private feels and where they come from. And many times, what is leadership? Leadership is not getting people to follow you just because you say, hey, do this, or we're going this direction. Leadership is about people to connect with you and understand what the mission is and buy in on the same thing that you believe in. And the
And
best
to
way
be an
to do
example.
that, yeah. Mhm.
And to be an example.
Yes, yes. And also too, Emerson, to be able to know that you're a person they can come to, they can talk to, they can communicate with. And there's that professional side or the mature side of being in the military, but you never forget where you came from. And when you're mentoring kids, that's very important because you got to remember what it was like to be a kid. You got to be able to share stories about when you were growing up, some of the things that you had to put up with as a kid, and how you did not let that define you or destroy you. And
And it's real important too, Jim, in
Mhm.
that we're not telling those stories from the back in my day kind of things,
Yeah,
but we're
yeah.
telling a story that matters to the listener
Hmm.
and that they can relate to for them today,
Hmm.
and that will show them that there there's a light at the end of it all. There's a
Hmm.
goal. There's a journey, and that they're in that journey. And there's a great biblical uh, 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 statement that I think it's in Isaiah. It says, God says He would make a highway through the wilderness. He would make a way where there was no way. Well, we can't see the way all the time.
Amen.
When we're at a particular point in our life, and that happens all through our life, it's not just when we're young,
Mm-mm.
it happens all through our life. We can find ourselves in circumstances, in situations, in transitions where we can't always see how
Hmm.
that's going to end up.
Oh
In
yeah.
fact, most of the time, we can't see.
Hmm.
And it's helpful to have that mentor's voice saying, this isn't you, but here's something similar.
Hmm.
And if you can see how this opened up, you may be able to see yourself through this period right now.
Yeah, exactly. because kids have a disconnect. Young people have a disconnect with people who do not understand, and they don't feel that they have anything in common with. And like Emerson said, I'm glad you put it, not like back in my days, because as soon as you hear those words, back in my days, most people would probably subconsciously think, who cares? And that's kind of like a priceless, type of reaction.
Yes,
So,
Sarge, whatever you say, Sarge.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, back in my days, we wore black boots and we shined them, and we had the heels and the toes that looked like black glass. And now you guys, you got these brown suede things, and all you got to do is just dust them off, and you're good to go. No, but sincerely, when you're talking to young kids and young people, the biggest thing that I think that really connects you with them is for you to demonstrate, not just show, but demonstrate that you really care about them. I think that is the starting point, in my opinion. And probably someone out there in TV land probably has a better way of saying it, or say, well, Jim, that's a starting point, but you got to, you should do this here. But Emerson, you got a book with you today, don't you? You were sharing
Yes, I
with
do.
me. Yeah.
And this
What's
book
the name of your book, huh?
This book was published a few years ago.
Uh-huh.
I wrote it. It's
hold it up there in front of the camera, if you would, please.
There's another name on it too, which is I was on the board of directors of a company. We were taking it public, and creating success from the inside out became the number 5 best-selling business-oriented book on the Wall Street Journal bestsellers list. It was also on Barnes and Nobles and several other bestsellers list. And it talked about a lot of different things. Creating success from the inside out is a concept that I've really held on to over the years. And that is that what you need for your own success is already inside you. We need to have mentors and guides and other resources to help make that happen. But understanding that your uniqueness and who you are is the core of your own success.
Oh, wow. I like that. That's true. That's true. I never thought about it like that.
Very true.
Yeah.
You are who you are. And out of the 8 billion people, we did a show here the other day, Jim, on there's 8 billion people in the world. There is only one of you. And figuring out, this isn't just for youth, this is for all of us, figuring out our path and our uniqueness and how to make that uniqueness grow and shine and bring us that success at every level of our life, not just financial, but every level of our life. Today I'm going to talk about something, though, from this book that I added into it that is real specifically financial. Okay. And then we can talk about some other things too, Jim, if that's okay.
Go right ahead, sir. Absolutely.
All of you have some level of understanding, excuse me, of interest and compounded interest. If you put your money into an account and it makes 5% or 10% or whatever, your money grows. It doesn't grow a lot, but it grows. You see that. If you have a credit card or a loan, a car loan, every month there's an interest charge that gets added to it, and you see that. And most of the time, I think, Jim, we don't really think that much about it. It's just kind of there. It's part of life. But there's a thing, those of you who if you knew me well, many years ago, I was a mortgage broker, and that's where I initially learned about a thing called the time value of money. The time value of money. And I'm just going to ask this question. I'm going to give you 4 figures here and Tell me which one is worth more. $5,000 today, $10,000 in 5 years, $20,000 in 10 years, or $80,000 in 20 years. Which is worth more, Jim? And I'm going to ask that of all of our viewers. Which would you rather have? $80,000 in 20 years or $5,000 today? Which is worth more?
I think I'd rather
worth more. That's the real question.
I think I'd rather have $5,000 today because, you know, as years pass, and I could be wrong, and I know you're going to correct me when I am, but the way I'm looking at $5,000 today, you know, it's going to take so much more to fulfill that, but you could take that $5,000 a day and start multiplying it today.
Right. That's, you're thinking, and now you had a manufacturing business, you're thinking in terms of the time value of money. And it's not just a kind of a concept floating around out there. Ooh, you know, it's going to be worth more if I have it now, what I can do it. There actually are mathematical formulas.
Okay. And
banks and financial institutions use those formulas, and that's where their profit comes from. Okay. If you ever wonder, I don't know how many of you have ever gotten a check sent to you. Maybe it was a rebate check or something, but a check sent to you from out of town, and your bank wanted to hold it for 2 or 3 or 4 days before they credited you with it.
Yeah, I've had it happen to me.
Guess what? This is why. Because your bank was able to take it. You couldn't touch it for 2 or 3 or 4 days.
Right.
Sometimes longer than that, could be a week. And they are generating money on it.
And
That's
dirty
the
rats.
time value of money, and they understand it. Car dealers. Let's take the other side of it. Car dealers have what's called a floor plan. A lot of companies do. You might have had that in the manufacturing business, Jim. And the floor plan is what they call when they get a car on the lot, they have a certain number of days where they're not charged interest on that car.
That's right.
It's a floor plan that they have. Now, if it passes that day, let's just say they have 30 days. If it passes that and goes to, say, 31 days, now they have all of that interest added to it, plus however many more days it sits on the lot.
Yeah.
A car dealer, not a manager necessarily, but a car dealer will, and I've seen it personally firsthand more than once, they will sell a car to you for less than they paid for the car. If that car has been sitting on their lot a certain number of days, they know every day it sits there, it's costing them more. And rather than paying more, they'll take less. But that doesn't make sense to most people, Jim. It's the time value of money.
Yeah, it does when you think about it, because that's kind of like, you know, reserve interest, and it's going to remain in reserve if you move that car. But if it comes to the due date, all that reserve interest comes,
it's all due.
It's all due. And then as it continues on, it's just going to get compounded more and more and more. So now, I can understand that. I really can. Yeah.
So mathematically, and Jim, you're sharper than the average bear.
Did you hear that?
I'll say it louder if you need to have it. Call Evelyn and have her
go ahead. Hey, listen to this. He said, I'm dumb. I mean, smarter than
You're sharper than the average bear. I gave you 4 figures, 5,000.
And I didn't even pay him $20 to say that either, folks. No, go ahead. Let's go.
If he did, I've never seen it.
Yeah.
$5,000 today, $10,000 in 5 years, $20,000 in 10, or $80,000 in 20 years. Folks, mathematically, they are all equal. They are all equal. Now, that is assuming a certain percentage of interest that you're able to use. Now, I like to use an interest rate of 15%.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people say, oh, that's a lot, or that's not enough, or what. I like to use it just mathematically when I'm trying to think through this.
Mm-hmm.
And here's why. If you earn 15% a year on your money,
Mm-hmm.
your money doubles every 5 years.
That's right.
It doubles. So that $5,000 today is worth exactly the same thing as $10,000 in 5 years, because it's doubled.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worth exactly the same thing as $20,000 in 20 years, because it just keeps doubling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, folks, this isn't airy-fairy new math kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for those of you who are going, huh? How does this work? How does that doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Do the research. Look online under time value of money. And I'm going to give you a real specific example. Excuse me. This is so important. The reason it's important is because we make little decisions along the way. They don't seem like a lot. You go to work, you make your money, you've earned it. You want to go out and have a drink, have a cup of coffee. You want to buy a sausage biscuit every morning on the way to work. You know, it's your money.
Oh, yeah.
You can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
But most people, in my experience, Jim, make those decisions without thinking in terms of dollars and cents, like what we're talking about right here.
Mm-hmm.
So the example that I'm using, which again is from the book Creating Success from the Inside Out.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could say this book was going to be on Mike's page that you had up there.
Yeah.
For Ideas Worth Knowing.
Oh, yeah.
But this one was done through a major publisher, through Random House.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I think it was 11 weeks. It was number 5 on the Wall Street Journal list, and it was on Barnes and Noble and other lists. But this book itself won't be on there. You'd have to go and buy a copy probably online. But I'm going to use what I called in this chapter the $90,000 cup of coffee. Now, how much would you pay for a really good cup of coffee, Jim?
Well, it wouldn't be no $90,000. I can tell you that now without even thinking.
Well, would it be $9,000?
I'm wondering where you're going with this.
$900.
No.
Okay.
No.
So in this chapter, I say, I had a friend who stopped every morning and got a cup of coffee. Now, I'm not going to say the name of the chain, but it starts with star and ends with bucks.
Buck. Mm-hmm. Yep.
But it could be any coffee shop. It could be any coffee shop.
You're right.
This isn't about Starbucks. They stopped every morning on the way to work. Now, this friend made 6 figures a year. Folks, that's over $100,000 a year, made 6 figures a year. Do you think he deserved to be able to have a cup of coffee on his way into work?
Yeah.
Of course he did. He's earning the money. That's what he wants to do.
More power to him.
Hey, more power to him.
Yeah.
That's what he liked. He stopped every morning on the way into work. Cost him $4 back then. It's a little more now. Now, that's his little extravagance. He owes it to himself. He works hard. He makes the money. It's a cup of coffee. Costs $4.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need any more excuses here? Do we need any more reasons or rationale?
Nope.
Have we all made decisions like that in our life?
Oh, yeah. Piece of cake. Right.
So let's look at the numbers.
Okay.
So 5 days a week, he spends $4 for a cup of coffee. Like I said, it's more now, but let's just use the numbers that I have here in the book.
4, 5, 20
times 50 weeks.
50 times 20, that's $1,000.
$1,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now let's say that he does this for the next 30 years.
Okay. Well.
Now, those of you who are really young, it's like 30 years is like the end of the universe. But you know what? If you're in your 20s, the chances are you're going to be working for another 25 or 30 years.
Amen.
So it doesn't matter if it's the same job or not, right?
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So let's say that he gets in this habit. That's what he does every day. Stops, gets his cappuccino, gets his latte or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you multiply 30 years times $1,000 a year, how much is that, Jim?
$30,000.
Okay. Now, let's say that all he could get, it wasn't 15%. Let's say he could get 6% a year,
Mm-hmm.
which I think even some of the money market accounts and things in my bank pay that now, or close to it.
Right.
So let's say it's 6% a year.
Okay.
So he spent $30,000 on coffee,
Mm-hmm.
spread out over 30 years, and ain't a lot.
Hmm.
$4 a cup. But at 6% interest, it's $89,000, $89,545.
Hmm.
That's where the $90,000 cup of coffee comes from.
Ah, I'm with you now.
You with me?
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
So we all understand how, okay, yeah, but he's earning interest on it. How does that make $90,000 worth $1,000? Because the way the math works, it's worth the same both directions.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you spend this money today
Mm-hmm.
and you're not earning the money, what you actually have spent is the accumulation of that money over that whole period of time. I'm getting a little deep here. Let's take it a different step. Let's say that you use your credit cards. Okay. Yeah.
I'm pulling up.
Let's say you use your credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
You get a good deal. I don't know what you want to buy. What do you want to buy, Jim? A rod and reel, a fishing boat, or you deserve it. What do you want?
Realistically, I'm pretty well satisfied. But okay, just for a sake,
Just for the sake
let's just say, okay, let's just say I'd like to buy some new equipment for the studio. I like getting some new cameras, new lights. I like to spend about $15,000.
$15,000. Okay.
Yeah.
And you probably pay off your credit cards every month if you can, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you pay them off every month, but that's a bigger month than you normally would have. Am I right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So they've got a sale. Here's $25,000 worth of equipment that you can get for say $12,000. You go, wow, that's a great sale.
Oh yeah. Can't pass it up.
So we buy the sale. The credit card payment comes due. Well, that's a little bit more than you usually pay in a month, probably. And so you roll it into the next month.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you pay the minimum this month. You got to do something to fix the tractor or the truck.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, you haven't saved all that money that you thought you were going to save.
That's right.
That interest has just been chipping away at it. Did you get as good a deal?
No.
No.
Not at
the
all.
deal is the same deal, but you're adding this other stuff into it. Folks,
Mm-hmm.
Interest is like that.
Yeah.
Interest that you are, when you're getting a great deal, mm-hmm. It's like it's a closeout, end of the season. They've got the outfits that you want, or they got the equipment that you want, or they got whatever. And so you go, man, I'm going to jump on this. And you, hey, it's a tax-free holiday. They do a lot of those here where I live. Tax-free holiday. I'm going to save that 7% or whatever. And you do this, and hey, this month I got to get a front end alignment. I got to do this. I've got to do that. I got to do the other. And it stretches out. Mm-hmm. You've just lost the advantage.
Oh yeah.
Because there's that interest over there, and it's just chipping away at it. It's chipping away at it. It's chipping away at it. Now multiply that by your life. And when we buy things or we do things or we make decisions, no matter how little they are, it can be the $4 cup of coffee, it can be $20,000 worth of equipment for Jim. When we're doing those things month after month after month after month, we're spending that money.
Mm-hmm.
Even if, Jim, you pay it all off.
Yeah. Yeah.
You pay it all off the same month. You got that
Mm-hmm.
deal. That's great. But how much is that money worth with the time value of money if you spread that money out and we're able to invest it and be earning that money on it over the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years? Now, folks, I'm not a wet bucket of water here. If you work hard, you deserve to be able to enjoy yourself and everything else. What's important is that you understand the math works for you or the math works against you. There is no escaping the math. The math is real. And when we are looking at the things that are important and the purchases that we make and the decisions that we make or the investments that we make and the cats that we buy and the cat food and the kitty litter box and everything else.
That's what's been bothering me here. Yeah.
When we look at all of these things and we just look at them from the value of, I want it, I got it, I deserve it, I can afford it, why shouldn't I have it? This is what I need, this is what I want. And we look at it without considering every purchase we make is an investment lost. Every time we pay less than a credit card balance, we are paying more than whatever the sale was that we got.
Yeah.
Anytime we take the money that we do have, that we've worked hard for, and we don't use it in a smart way, all we're doing is we are cutting our own dreams at the knees.
You know, that's very interesting. I've never thought about like that in that degree, and I can see why that book was such a tremendous bestseller. And you may want to get with Mike and just record a portion of it, if you can, without getting in any type of legal mumbo jumbo there or anything.
Yeah.
But, to put that on, the idea is worth knowing because, ladies and gentlemen, what Emerson just shared there is something that, especially kids in college, their credit cards, they throw them at them just about.
Oh gosh, yeah.
They don't have a clue how this can snake bite them and enslave them. And I mentioned that about putting on the books there because the idea is worth knowing is our show for tomorrow. And it is a great show because normally Mike Lewis and Emerson, they host the show.
Those of you watching it, it's the show today.
Yeah. No, it airs tomorrow. We recorded earlier today because we had some other things we had to do. But the important thing is that in those books there, you can get a complimentary library card.
Oh, yeah.
With no strings attached. And, you know, you can go there and you can get 10 books if you want to. You can get 3 books now and 7 later, whatever you want to do. And these are all digital books. But Emerson, what you just shared there, especially for the young people out there, especially mentoring our youth, my goodness gracious, that is a topic that they
don't teach it in school.
No, they don't even teach you how to even balance a checkbook in school.
No, not at all.
I mean, oh man.
Not at all. And Jim, I have to say, it took me a while to figure this stuff out in my own head.
Oh,
looking at the books.
Oh yeah.
And as a mortgage broker, I specialized in discounting mortgages. I won't even get into that at this point, but if I can discount a mortgage, I actually make more money on my money than if I'm buying it at the full face value of it. I mean, the way the math works, the math works.
Yeah.
There's a great saying that we had in the business: figures don't lie, but
Oh,
liars figure.
amen. They do. Yeah, that's true.
And we have to be willing to put ourselves out and in a position to be willing to learn from not just other people's successes, but other people's mistakes, but be willing to learn things that we don't know. And there's a real truism here, Jim. You know, you only know what you know.
That's true.
And you don't know what you don't know. And watch this. Most of the time we go through our life, we may not even know the right questions to ask.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
That is the truth. And that's where mentoring our youth, not just mentoring our youth, but mentoring people who aren't necessarily youth.
Right.
But mentoring and taking the knowledge base that you've learned over the years and sharing that so that other people are able to not make the same mistakes maybe, or be able to make decisions from a different perspective than they would just all by themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but I made a lot of bad decisions in my life. I sure have.
Yeah. That's part of, what I first heard this, I believe, it was in the first TriStar movie, The Natural, starring Robert Redford, and I think it was Glenn Close. I'm not sure. But anyway, the comment was made in there. There's the life you learn with, and then there's a life you live with. And I've always liked that. And I don't know where that quote came from, but that was the first time I've ever heard it. And the life that you learn with and the life that you live with. And that is so true. And that is, just on that principle alone, think of all the great connections you could have with a young person. Not only to talk about, the dangers of credit cards and how the numbers work on those deals, but also to connect with them and let them know about your personal journey and how it, shaped you and how it motivated you to overcome. Because one of the things young people need to hear is that where you are right now, it really is the perfect place for you. And that's sometimes kind of hard to accept, especially when you're going at a very difficult thing or you're facing, at a very trying time in your life. And we've all been there. But where you're at right now is a perfect place for you because it's not where you're going to wind up at. It's just a stop, a temporary stop down the pathway of life. And every hurdle you overcome in your life, it enables you to go and grow. And a thought come to my mind, and Joe Gibbs said it after they won the 1991 or 1992, the Super Bowl. He said that Charles Mann, him and Charles were going out for an interview. Charles Mann was a defensive player. And he says, Charles said something to me on the way out there, just like he was just thinking out loud. And he made the comment, he says, wow, we just won the Super Bowl. But winning the Super Bowl, that's not what makes it special. It's all of the hurdles and disappointments and the trials that we had to overcome to be able to get there and then to be able to win it. That's what makes it so sweet. And that's true, because that's something that young people need to hear. They need to hear that just because they're going through some tough times, just because they got peer pressure in their life, just because one of the sad things that we're faced with, that young people need to know that suicide is not a way out. It's not an option. And because suicide, for a young person's in a very difficult situation, or got a lot of peer pressure, or feels like the world is closing in, there is no tomorrow, suicide can, because it comes from the dark side of life, and it always camouflages itself. The dark side of life is like a cow patty that sprays whipped cream over it and then puts a cherry on top, pretending that this is a delicious dessert when all it is just a cow patty. But young people, they look at that and they think about it. And that's one of the most tragic things can happen to a young person, is that they give up on life and they quit living. And that's why being a mentor to help them and be there for them, that's why it's so valuable. Because in one of the, I went to a place called 13 Reasons Why Toolkit.org. I'm going to repeat that again. It's 13 Reasons Why, WHY, Toolkit.org. Guidance for youth. And right out of the gate, the very first thing they talk about, suicide is the second leading cause of death for young people between the ages of 10 and 24. My goodness. So that's why I wanted to, mention that, because that's the first thing out of those people's, on their website, the first thing they make is that statement about suicide being the number 2 killer of young people between the ages of 10 and 24.
Yeah.
And you think about a 10-year-old, taking their own life. I mean, my goodness gracious, they don't even know they just barely learned how to spell the word life. They know nothing
emotionally
about it.
Dealing with the despair and rejection and all of those things, and the the number of teenage girls and your LGBT youth and your kids who are smart, so they're not great at sports and physically, and on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
It's the peer pressure, the peer pressure that is there, emotionally and physically in some cases, but dealing with a sense of belonging, a sense of who they are, a sense of your worth, a sense of your value.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Jim, I mean, in talking just about marketing, the main thing I talk about is what is your unique value, because you have unique value. And out of 8 billion people in the world,
that's right,
there is nobody who has your experience, your knowledge, your feelings, your awareness, the way you see things, the way you think about things, your understanding of things, your emotional ability, your intellectual ability, your physical ability, all of those different things. And you are as unique as the thumbprint on your finger.
Yes. And the thing
matters.
too,
it really matters.
Yeah, you're right, Emerson. The thing too is that you may be the only person with your unique personality and all your experiences. You may be the only person on planet Earth that could help someone in their hour of need by the way you express yourself, by the way you demonstrate how you care, all these things. Because
you're the only one who has the DNA, RNA makeup that you have in the history of the world.
Oh, yeah.
In the history of the world.
Yeah, that's something young people need to hear.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And that's just your genetic makeup.
Yeah,
your genetic makeup affects the brain chemistry. Your brain chemistry and your experiences affect the way you think and process information, the way that you see the world, the way you understand people and emotions, the way that you look at things and analyze things. All of that is unique to you. There's never been another person in the history of the world that has that makeup. And that makeup has the solutions that somebody is looking for. Somebody is needing. Somebody whose life depends on it. Yeah. And you have it in your hand. You have unique value. Unique value proposition. You
Yeah.
have that uniqueness. Trust enough in yourself and in that one thing to keep moving in that direction and find that unique value.
Oh, yeah.
And all the naysayers, all of the people who are causing you hassles and problems and who are texting and using social media or doing any of the other stuff that you're up against, trust that that's bigger than all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is.
It really, truly is. And one of the things that young people really need to understand, they need to hear this. And there's older people too that really need to hear this, is that whatever you think you are, your mind will not, your subconscious mind will never let you fail. That includes worry. That includes shortcomings.
Well, and by fail, what Jim means is if you're thinking it and it's dark and negative and everything else,
yeah,
it'll make sure that everything falls in line to make that true.
Yeah, your mind won't, your subconscious.
You are, or if you think you're not, you're right.
That's right. That's what Henry Ford said.
Can, or if you think you can't, you're right.
That's right.
So,
and one of the YouTube, and that YouTube link I have show right there, The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale, that hits the nail on the head. If you're going to mentor a child or a young person, or even someone is in their 20s and 30s that may be troubled, you may want to spend about 35 minutes, because that's about how long that one is. The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. There's other programs on there by Earl, but that is one that you need to listen to, get your mind around it, and let it blossom in your life, because the strangest secret of it is, no matter what you ask of the universe cannot say no.
That's right.
That's kind of hard to believe, isn't it? First time I heard that, Emerson, I got to be honest. They said, whatever you ask, if you've heard of that thing, whatever you ask to life will give you. And I thought that was just a nice little saying, light cotton candy kind of a deal.
Oh, you're gonna make me repeat that one, aren't you?
Huh? I'm gonna do what now?
You're gonna make me repeat that, aren't you?
Oh yeah. That's why we got time. But really, I mean, the subconscious mind, it will not let you fail. It really won't. It will not. I've never. You think about it. Look at your own life. I mean, down my pathway of life. No matter what I was thinking, if I was thinking positive, if I was thinking negative, I mean, I didn't wake up one day and even though I was thinking positive, and then boom, I get dropped into Negativeville, and vice versa. If I'm thinking bad things are going to happen, I didn't all of a sudden, get dropped into Successful City. It doesn't work like that, does it, Emerson? You got to keep your mind on the things that you want.
No, it doesn't work like that. But what your perception is becomes your reality. And what Jim was referring to was a poem that it's been an important poem to me for many years. And I remember, Jim, I have a thing that I say in one of my books where there's some people that will give you nothing, but they'll sell you anything. And we've all known people like that. And I had some motivational speaker the first time I ever heard this, and I went up afterwards. I said, I'd love to get a copy of that. Could I get a copy of this from you? And he said, well, buy my book. It's in my book. It's like, this is, you'll see this. This is, I think it's about 12 lines. Okay. But what Jim is referring to is most sources say that it's by an anonymous person. Others say it's by an author named Rittenhouse, but it goes way back, over 100 years. I bargained with life for a penny.
Yeah,
and
that's
life
it.
would pay no more.
Mm-hmm.
However, I begged at evening when I counted my scanty store. For life is just an employer, gives you what you ask, but once you've set the wages, you must bear the task. I
Mm.
worked for a menial's hire, only to learn dismayed that any wage I had asked of life, life would have willingly paid.
Yeah, that's it. That's it, brother. Mm.
And that is so true. It is so
Mm-hmm.
true.
Yeah. So next week, ladies and gentlemen, see our show. We're going to charge $1.50 an hour on your cable TV. But I'm just kidding you. I'm just kidding you. No, but really, that's so true, and that's something that I never really thought about over the years. You know,
And
it's
Jim,
been like
if anybody sends an email, put your email up there. If
oh,
anybody sends an email to us, I'll provide a copy of that for you. Okay?
without buying the book, huh?
No. You don't need to buy a book. That it's powerful stuff,
Yeah.
and it matters.
Well,
You
I tell
matter.
you,
You matter.
that's our email here at the show.
There
Inspiration
you go.
63
Inspiration at e360tv.com.
What Emerson said. I couldn't
What
get
I
it out.
said.
Yeah, because I couldn't. I got my tongue wrapped around my eye tooth, and I couldn't see what to say there. But also, you can contact Emerson at web3direct.com. That's his email
Absolutely.
address.
Yeah, I'll send it right to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that way it won't be any lag time or anything like that. But Emerson, I want you to share what Web3 Direct is, because I know that's your website, but Web3, I remember you saying one time you picked WEB because that's your initials. And I don't know what the W is. Is that Warren or
Nope,
your
it's
first?
Waldo.
Waldo Emerson
Now
Brantley.
everybody knows where Waldo is. That's it, Waldo Emerson Brantley the third.
So you are actually the third, Waldoson
I
Emerson.
am.
So that's where that came from. That's very unique.
And I got to tell you, Waldo's a name you have to grow into, you know?
Yeah. That's for sure. So where is Waldo? I'm right here.
I'm right. Hey, Jim, I get asked that every single time I go through airport security.
Really?
Now, most people don't know this, but they're trained to ask disruptive questions or make a disruptive comment and watch how people in the line react. Well, when they see my card, my ID, and they see my boarding pass, it's too irresistible for them.
Yeah.
That's the only way to put it. And I can't say, did you fall off of a truck when you were a kid, or did you are you just naturally stupid because you got my ID and you know where Waldo is. I'm right here.
Yeah.
So you just laugh, and just say, hey, now you know, or now you can tell your kids or grandkids or whatever,
You found Waldo.
You know where Waldo is. But they're
Yeah.
watching. They're saying something to see what kind of reaction they get from people in line.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so WEB3 is Waldo Emerson Brantley the third.
There you go. One each. One
That's
each.
it.
There you go. Ladies and
Direct
gentlemen,
marketing, that's the kind of marketing that I do. So
yeah,
Web3 Direct.
that's really cool. I like that. Ladies and gentlemen, our time is about all gone. We want to thank you so much for tuning in today. Be sure and get in touch with Emerson if you want a copy of that poem. And it's very, very unique. Be sure and go to YouTube and be sure and listen to and share with others The Strangest Secret by Mr. Earl Nightingale. And I'll tell you right now, it really opened up your eyes. It'd be a blessing for you. And, one of the things that just really touches me, because we've had suicide in our family, and I know what the family goes through. Everybody feels guilty. And when people come over, no one wants to talk about it. It'd be different if we lost a member of our family to a car accident or cancer or heart attack or something. But something like suicide is so taboo. They just come in and just sit and look at you, and it's kind of like look around because no one knows what to say. And suicide is probably the most tragic of deaths that a family can go through, because the person who made the exit, they lost their hope.
And they don't realize how valuable they are.
Yes.
And how much they mean and how important they are.
Amen. And when I went to that website there, the 13 reasons, 13 reasons why, WHY, toolkit.org, and it had /youth behind it. Guidance for youth. The very first comment they made was suicide is the second leading cause of death for young people between the ages of 10 and 24.
Yep.
And that is why so many young people need to be reached out to and show that they matter.
Yep.
Because a lot of people, when they're, they'll just clam up, and they may say they're okay, but deep down inside, they're hurting. And that's why we need to reach out to them. And that's why we want to cover that. And also about what Emerson shared there about money. Give me a multiple choice. They were all correct. And I only got 1/4 of the answers right.
Jim, this has been a show, man. It's been a wrap.
Yes, it has, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again. Tomorrow, we're going to be on the Ideas Worth Knowing. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think that show went to the dogs. You'll have to tune in tomorrow and see what I mean. We'll see you then. Thank you now. Bye-bye.